Hi all. Just finished watching series 13 episode 5 Survivors of the Flux, or What the Flux is Going On. You can tell when Chibbers writes these episodes because they are a mess. It is literally throw everything against the wall. Everything is broken up and choppy. People move through time, jump, jump, jump every time. I suppose there was some coherence in it, but it was just jumping. I'll try and address each individual bit again individually because it's just easier for people to follow. We'll talk about the Doctor first because that was the cliffhanger. Starts off with the Doctor. She's a weeping angel. She gets turned back to the Doctor. She then has this weird nonsense scene with the weeping angels where she's kind of standing around in this big foggy cloudy area and one of them's talking to her in her own voice, not saying a lot, telling her she's being prepared for transport, and then she turns back to a weeping angel. It literally was a completely pointless scene which could have been explained by somebody else. She then reverts back to being the Doctor again with an ood in front of her. Then Barbara Flynn turns up. She was credited as Orsoc previously. I mean, basically her character's there really for exposition and then to die. Barbara Flynn plays it really well, and again you just get the sense of how weak Jodie is in comparison. Probably made a great Doctor. So Barbara Flynn is the head of the division, and the division are destroying the universe because they're moving to the next universe, and where they are currently is outside of any universe, and they're about to move across. And the process of moving across also includes creating the flux. To be honest with you, I can't remember if they created the flux to destroy the universe to move across, or they just created it because the Doctor. We don't find out much more really about the division. We already knew really everything that Barbara Flynn just expositions at us. The division were created by the Time Lords. They're grown. They interfered with time. The Doctor already knew this as well. They interfered with time. They interfered with events. They've expanded so large that they have been affecting the whole universe, and they've got loads of species involved. And we kind of knew this already, so that wasn't anything new. Barbara announces that she's Tecteun, and the Doctor gets a bit mardy with her. You took me away, blah, 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 blah. And then apparently they created the flux to destroy the universe because the Doctor was interfering. But they were interfering. I mean, it literally doesn't make much sense. They decided to go to a new universe and took the Doctor with them because she was going to save the old universe. But why are you putting her in the middle of the ship that's doing everything that you don't want her to stop? It's just, oh my God, it's so stupid. And obviously the biggest aberration out there is it confirmed everything about the Timeless Child is true. The Doctor's the Timeless Child. She's lived billions of lives. Who fucking knows? There are thousands and thousands of Doctors flying around out there. Still flying around out there, bearing in mind the flux is a spatial event, not a time event. Therefore, everything before the flux still exists because the universe isn't destroyed until that point. The Doctor starts trying to persuade the Ood to help her. And it doesn't really take a lot to persuade the Ood to help her, despite the fact that he is dedicated and allied to the division. But the Doctor basically goes, go on, your people are going to die. And the Ood's like, all right then. The Ood shows the Doctor a picture of the rather holographic projection of the universe. The Doctor says, oh, it's shrunk. And then what's at the centre of it? Oh, that's the planet Earth, and that's the centre of the final act of the flux, the final destruction. She heard the fob watch, and that's when Barbara Flynn turns up, or Tecteun turns up, and gives the Doctor a choice of come with us, rejoin, you can have all your memories back, or I'll stick you back in the universe and you can try and save it, and I'll even let you have the Earth. Well, what was the fucking point then? Why did you bring the Doctor with you if you didn't care if she tried to save the universe? It's just such garbage writing. Literally makes no sense. It's all flashes and bangs and mystery boxes and bullshit from Chibnall without any substance or any coherence. I'll come back to this bit because something happens later on which kind of is the cliffhanger for the episode. Meanwhile, obviously Yaz, Dan and the Professor Jericho were zapped back to 1901. We fast forward to 1904 and we find them breaking into what looks like a Mayan temple or an Aztec temple. It starts off with Dan crashing through the ceiling, landing face first. Then Yaz floats down like Mary fucking Poppins. She starts looking around, wanting to look for, because apparently they're looking for something. And luckily, there's actually already a candle that's lit in the room, which is amazing because they're the first people in the room, apparently, because they broke the seal. And then suddenly the professor drops down and Dan zips off up. And they keep talking about, you haven't fixed the pulley then. It's like, oh, dear God, Professor Jericho had some real agency. He was so well written in the last episode, and now you've just turned into a stupid male again. Whereas Yaz is amazing, and yet still a hollow character. They find this cup, and on this cup it's got some information about the end of the world, because apparently there's predictions throughout history, which the professor knows about. So they take it to somewhere to get it read or understood. Someone plants a bomb, basically 3 sticks of dynamite tied together. Yaz, for some reason, happens to put some blankets on top of it and runs off. Flits to another scene, they're on a boat with them saying, oh, thank you for your quick thinking, Yaz, because if you hadn't, we'd all have been dead. It's like, what? I mean, literally probably 3 blankets would have stopped. It's just, what? Anyway, sorry, you can tell I'm exasperated at this episode. They're on the boat and they're yammering. Somebody comes in and tries to kill them. Dan and Yaz, mainly Yaz, obviously, subdue him. Then he takes a poison pill and he's got a mark of a serpent on his wrist. So they're off to somewhere else to look for something else. Next thing, they're climbing up a mountain. I might have missed some stuff because it jumps around a lot. Climbing up a mountain to see a wise hermit. The wise hermit's actually quite funny. He's a stupid little character, but it's still quite funny. And he tells them basically they've got to find the dog, which is Carvanista. So they think, how are we going to get his attention? And they travel to China. All this is taking place in 1 year. And bearing in mind we're in 1904, all of these journeys take a lot longer than they seem to think they take. They go to China, climb over the Great Wall of China. On one side paint half a message, on the other side paint the other message to the Carvanista saying, we're in this time. Weirdly, for a split second, Jericho has a beard. Very odd. He turns up, no beard. Suddenly he's got a full white beard. And then the next scene, it's gone again. Again, I'm presuming that was a mistake, but just stupidity. I forgot to say, on one of their ship journeys, Joseph Williamson turns up again. And you get the impression that he's travelling the tunnels and just going through doors which take him to different places. Which later on is confirmed because they end up going back to England. Dan knows who he is because of the history stuff. They go through the tunnels, they find Joseph Williamson, and he leads them to kind of a nexus place which has several doorways to different places. And again, I'll come back to the ending because that's part of the great cliffhanger. Meanwhile, you've got Belle and Vinda. Belle's in the ship. She ends up arriving at a location where apparently all of the people who are kidnapped are. It's quite a nice little design. It's like a hollowed out planet but spikes. It's quite cool. But then she gets zapped by the Carvanista because the shield around the Earth has started to break because one ship floated off. He basically takes control of her ship because she's got a Lupari ship and brings it to Earth to fill the space. And then again goes to a cliffhanger. Meanwhile, the Grand Serpent appears in England throughout time and is part of the creation of UNIT, and he's basically finagling his way through to get a position of power to get to the top of it, killing his way through it, travelling through time to do it. So he's not living through those years, he's jumping in and out at different times so he can manoeuvre and manipulate to get to be what he wants, which is the head of UNIT, so he can get the power he needs for this particular moment. And again, that goes to a cliffhanger. I may be confusing everybody with this. I forgot to say, Vinda arrives at the planet after Belle has gone. He realises it's where Swarm and Azure are, and they're basically absorbing people because they are space, and they've already got the time particles, which are the little blue fuzzy things, presumably, to be able to do something because, again, random powers that make no sense, whatever the script needs. Vinda gets captured by a passenger, although he says he knew they'd be able to sense him, so whether he's got a plan or not, I don't know. He gets zapped into wherever you go when you're a passenger, this kind of weird temple-like place, and this is where we meet Dan's to-be girlfriend, who makes a comment about him having a gun and that she wants to get back at somebody. So yeah, now the grand final, the great cliffhanger. Swarm and Azure turn up on the Division interdimensional ship. I can't even call it confrontation. Tecteun gets a bit huffy and they kill her. I mean, literally that's it. Swarm kind of leans forward to the Doctor and puts his hand towards her and says, "As for you, Doctor," or something like that. I mean, she's going to survive. It's just not going to do anything. Or it'll have no effect. I don't know, one or the other. Meanwhile, on Earth, the Grand Serpent's actually apparently been liaising with the Sontarans because a Sontaran fleet suddenly appears above the Lupari shield. They attack all the ships. Carvanista and Bell, after a little squabble between them, have to defend themselves against the invading Sontarans. Down on Earth, the Sontarans come through the doors into the tunnels where Joseph Williamson and Dan Yaz and the Professor are. Again, how, why, don't know, because those are different places in time and space. Some might not even exist anymore because he said they'd all changed, but somehow they knew how to get in. Don't know, maybe that'll be explained. Lots to be explained again, or I imagine they just won't be, because otherwise the whole of episode 6 will be explaining everything and not a lot else actually happening. Although you could technically say that's what this episode was. I forgot to mention that Kate Lethbridge-Stewart figured out who the Grand Serpent was, confronted him. He's got this weird snake thing that comes out of him that kills people. She said that she was shielded against it. He then put a bomb in her house. It has a countdown that's obviously audible, because, you know, that's that. When you want to kill someone, that's what you do. She then rings Osgood and tells her she's going dark, and that was in 2017, and the attack from the Sontarans is 2021. And that's it. That's the big cliffhanger. Everybody's in danger, and the Grand Serpent told UNIT to target certain cities on Earth. So that's the grand big cliffhanger. So many holes in this. I mean, if this was happening, why did the Sontarans bother with anything that happened in episode 2? What was the point of that? It was an okay episode. The Sontaran bit wasn't bad. It was just everything else that dragged it down. But why did they even do that? Why did they attack? What was that? What was the point of that? Or did they not know about that before the Flux? Where's their fleet? They've got thousands of ships suddenly appear out of nowhere in space. I mean, how's that work? Surely they'd be affected by the Flux. So much of this just doesn't make sense. I say that the scenes with Barbara Flynn were really good because she was good, but eminently pointless because all that happened is they explained stuff we already knew, except the only thing we didn't know is that they created the Flux. I'm sure we already knew they were travelling to another dimension. They were going to do it somewhere else, that universe was dead, because she'd already told them. It just doubled down heavily. I mean, it utterly confirmed the timeless children bollocks. We still don't know who Swarm and Azure are. We still don't know who Vinda and Bell are. We don't know why these tunnels lead to where they lead to. We don't know why the Sontarans are there. We don't know what the Grand Serpent's doing or who he even is. We don't know who those people were in the Antarctic in the first episode. One of them turned out to be Azure, but who was the bloke? Who were they? Presumably that's going to be explained in the next episode. I think Swarm actually says to Tecteun that she set him free. I might have misheard that. I need to double check on that one. Again, another chaotic, jumpy episode. I mean, am I being unfair? Is that just how I feel? I mean, it washed over me again. I felt nothing after watching it. It was just But it was a bit of a mess. The music was too loud, especially at the beginning. It was ridiculously loud and overblown, as if it was trying to compensate for the drama by putting on overly dramatic music. But then the music in Chiba's run's always been a problem for me, apart from the theme tune, which I quite like. For incidental music and the score in the episodes, it's been utterly awful. Murray Gold's stuff was dynamite. His music elevated every element of the show. The orchestration, the themes, it was just beautiful and worked so well. And yeah, some people thought that was overblown, but I thought it was beautiful and it captured emotion. This is just beepy, horrible noises. And admittedly, this series, it's become more grandiose, but it seems to be being done by someone who doesn't actually know how to do it. Again, I suppose positives, there was good visuals. Barbara Flynn was really good for the 5 seconds she was on the screen. I was disappointed with Kevin McNally. He was good, but his character had been basically hollowed out. Dan and Yaz were Dan and Yaz. Oh, I forgot to mention something utterly stupid. Apparently, the Doctor had recorded this message for Yaz after they left the planet of time, and you're like, when did that happen? When were you able to do that? Because the Weeping Angel turned up pretty much immediately. It was just your basic Deus Ex Machina. And the Doctor tells Yaz in this recording, you need to find out when the Earth's going to be destroyed. There'll be clues. I'm like, oh my God, really? Such a clunky mess. I will be repeating myself if I carry on. You can probably tell my exasperation. Strangely, when I started recording this, I wasn't sure what I was going to say. I guess I found out what I was going to say. I'll leave you with my comic plug. Just a quick reminder that my comic Marked, a 228-page graphic novel, is available from Indiegogo. The link is in the description below. I'd love your support. Thank you very much, and peace out.